Hi, I'm Crystal.
And I'm Karin.
And I'm Liv.
And you're listening to the Rom-Com Detectives.
Welcome to Rom-Com Detectives episode 38. I'm like Daredevil, the next episode in our Mentalist unit. Today, Karin and I will be breaking down the 15th episode of the first season called Bloodshot.
This episode originally aired on March 17th, 2009. It was written by Gary Glassberg and directed by Chris Long.
And joining us for this episode is our newest Mentalist Rom-Com Consultant, Liv. Say hi, Liv.
Hi, guys.
So some of our listeners may know Liv from the Mentalist Bullpen Discord server, where she goes by LivPen. Could you start by giving us a bit of fan background on yourself?
Sure. So I've been like a fan of fandom generally for about 15 years. I've been writing fan fiction ever since. I had been tapped for the Mentalist a couple times by various friends of mine. I was huge fans of Lucifer, Elementary, Bones, all of the rom-com-y detective type shows. And finally, I had two people separately tell me to watch it within like 2 days of each other. And I was like, fine. And I binged the entire show like this January. And then have been, writing for it ever since and talking to anyone who will listen about it ever since.
That's so funny. You're a more recent fan than I am. I thought you were an older fan than I was.
I feel like I give that impression because every time I talk to someone one-on-one, they're like, oh, you've been through it, you've experienced it. I'm like, no, I watched it. And then I feel like right when I finished watching it, it got a resurgence. And there's been a lot of like edits and conversation and writing about it. So I've been like very lucky to not come in that drought period that there was for a while.
Yeah, that's great.
Karin must know what you're talking about. We both didn't go through this mentalist drought that is talked about.
Oh my goodness. It was crazy. Like, we had a big resurgence in 2020 because the show started streaming in late 2019. But then after a year or two, I don't know, people went back to work and it was so quiet in the fandom spaces.
It's funny because when I started watching the show, I think it was was it the year before that? I'm losing track of time now. But I think it was 2024 summertime. Anyway, I felt like it was like streaming like everywhere. It was on Prime, it was on Hulu, it was on HBO, it was on all these platforms, and now it's only on Hulu, or in the US anyway. It feels like it's being pared down slowly.
I feel like that's true about a lot of streaming recently. I just keep seeing things being taken off streaming, which is really sad to me because I live off of Hulu. So if something's taken off of Hulu, it's really depressing for me.
Me too.
But now we're being like showered with content. Speaking of which, TV police update. So on the Discord server, we've been having like weekly watch parties or podcast parties. It's weird to call it a listen party. It just doesn't sound good. So. But we've been watching them together, and it's really fun. And then I guess episode 5 is supposed to be out today, and then in the last 2 weeks we got to listen to episode 3 and 4, which was one with a super fan, another with Carl, the police consultant guy, who is also CBI Carl. But yeah, it's been really fun. And then I guess later this week they're gonna have the rest of maybe video episodes for 3 and 4 coming out. So we'll probably do watch parties for those on the weekends. All right, get to the case briefing. So you added this in, yeah, Karin?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I was kind of entertained by the description of the episode that I found in the DVD booklet today. The description is, temporarily blinded in an explosion, Patrick searches for the bomber using his other senses, including his sense of humor.
That's cute.
He was like kind of nailing the comedic timing in this episode, I will say. Like, it's a note that I made.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I was just funnier than he usually is, honestly.
So the location was in Sacramento, mostly taking place at the CBA headquarters. Title relevance, there's a reference to the trauma that Jane experiences that blinds him, and the doctor describes it as small floating blood clots in the vessels around his eyes. So basically, that's bloodshot eyes. So
The victim and cause of death, James Medina was killed in an explosion. And the CBI is involved because Jane got a text about the bomb shortly before it went off. So he found the bomb in the van and saw James Medina about to die.
yeah. So the killer lesson is Dan Hollenbeck. The motive is revenge on Jane for ruining his dad's life. Guest stars. Oh my god, this section was so huge. I wrote so many people down. There were a lot of guest stars. There's Gene Farber. He played Dan. He's from Law and Order, General Hospital, Captain America: Civil War. I wasn't sure like who he was based on his name on IMDb, but he was a Hydra operative, I guess. He seems to play a lot of Russian characters.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then H. Richard Green, he had like a really small part. He was the Lynch Halstead boss, but he has over 100 acting credits, including Medium, The West Wing, and The Wonder Years. There was Rick Worthy, who played Terry Andrews, and he's from Star Trek Enterprise, the new series Washington Black, The Magicians, Man in the High Castle. But I know him from when I was watching the episode, I was like, this guy is so familiar. It's killing me. And he's from Battlestar Galactica. He was one of the Cylons. So
Wow. Yeah, I didn't recognize him from that.
Yeah.
he was number 4. So I
Time for a rewatch.
was like, that's right. Well, I mean, Battlestar Galactica used to be on Prime, but it's not anymore. You can't stream it anywhere now. So
Oh no.
I do have the DVDs, though. It's just a matter of digging them out. So there was Lon Goen. He played Tommy, the guard. He's an actor and a stuntman. There's Marisol Ramirez. She played Dr. Fuller. She's on a lot of police procedurals, such as Without a Trace, The Shield, Cold Case, CSI, NCIS, and The Rookie. And the last one was the one that was the most familiar to me, Tamlin Tomita. She played Mrs. Medina. She's got over 140 acting credits. She's from The Good Doctor, Man in the High Castle, Star Trek Picard, Teen Wolf, and 24. But what I knew her from most was the movie Picture Bride, which is from the 90s, which actually took place in Hawaii. So that was like something we were watching in school and things like that. And she played Waverly in The Joy Luck Club, which is a movie I really like. So, all right, Jane's skills in the episode: there's pulse reading, sense of smell, deduction, and code reading. Did I miss anything? What do you?
No, just sense of smell. Just this episode is so hilarious. All this sniffing.
And how much of that was real, right? Episode breakdown. So Jane arrives at the CBI and he greets the guard named Tommy. And so, like, whenever they open with like somebody he's talking to, you think, oh, he's gonna come back later. And sure enough, he does later. But he's talking to him, and then on his way in, he sees Grace at a coffee cart talking to a young man, and the guy's being kind of touchy feely with her. He's like touching her arm, and they kiss and everything like that. And then I thought it was interesting that they focus on the sign outside of CBI that says like
Yeah.
restricted access or something. So I want to go into that a little bit later. But inside, Lisbon, Rigsby, and Cho, they're kind of grumpy. And I guess it's because the department is being audited. But Grace is in a really good mood. She's like, good morning. The guys wonder what's wrong with her, and Jane makes the observation that maybe she's involved with someone, which Rigsby denies until Jane mentions that he saw her kissing a guy outside, which, uh-oh. Rigsby's jealousy radar goes up.
Oh yeah.
So that's when Jane gets a text, and he immediately goes to Lisbon, and he actually yells for her. And then he actually puts his teacup down, and he goes and he shows it to her, and that's where he gets a text about how there's a very large bomb nearby, and they want to know, are you smart enough to find it? And then I went to go back to when he's parking outside. Did you notice that he rolls up his window? I was wondering, like, do any cars have that kind of window now?
Honestly, I was distracted by how good his spot was. Like, how does he get the spot right in front of the CBI?
Right out front, yeah. Like, is that reserved for Patrick Jane? Is there a sign? But yeah, I feel like my kids don't know what a crank window looks like anymore.
I had the same thought.
I've never used it.
So the next scene, they show everybody outside. Everybody's being evacuated, and Mentalist says that this is their third bomb threat for the year. And Jane speculates that it was directed at him, and he starts looking around, and he walks toward the neighboring parking lot, which I guess is where people under Patrick Jane park. Because I mean, he's not even an agent, right? He's a consultant.
It was driving me crazy. I was like, I've never noticed that. I don't know if we never like got like an intro scene like that, but yeah, he must have like seduced Tommy or something, the guard, to get such a good spot.
Or he hypnotized whoever assigns the parking in the CVI, right?
That too.
You will give me the front parking space. So Jane's reasoning though is that a very large bomb has to be in a very large car. And so he's searching, even though Lisbon's like, what are you doing? And then that's when he finds the guy inside a locked van, and he's got the words "You're next" on his forehead. And he sees the bomb, and there's only like 18 seconds left on it. And this is one of those TV bombs where the seconds stretch out for a very long
yeah.
time. Because like they go and they search around, they bang on the front window, and by the time they go into the back, I feel like 18 seconds have already passed. But Lisbon tells him that they have to run, and he spends some time to look at the guy's eyes. I guess he just felt, I don't know. Do you think he just felt like he owed it to the guy to look at
Oh,
him
the
before?
acting is so good here because you really feel the desperation there.
Yeah,
Like this guy is yeah, it's
it's kind of a heavy intro. Because
yeah.
yeah, he looks at him and then he just knows, right? And he just kind of like sags down, like
Yeah.
I think Jane, as much as he went through something very traumatic, is not used to death as much as maybe the other CBI agents too. So I want, other than what he went through with his family, he's really experienced something like that before.
Plus, I feel like looking at somebody seconds before they're about to die is pretty
Mhm.
traumatizing, like of a different sort of trauma, right? So,
Mhm.
I just want to know that was a big explosion. Like I was pausing it, and I could tell that they were stunt people, but they looked pretty close. Like because like when you're watching it without really staring at screenshots, you can't really tell it's not Simon and Robin.
Yeah, I was, amused reading the script along with watching it. In the script, it says the van, like, goes up 10 feet in the air and flips over and lands on its roof. I mean, clearly I mean, that's how the writers were conveying, "Make this
Yeah.
a really big explosion."
Well, I mean, I feel like also the stunt guy, they like must have like had him on some kind of springboard because he like gets flung into the air
Yeah.
really high, and then he like hits the car hood and everything.
Yeah, I was also looking at the original script, and I found it interesting that they had Jane on the ground the whole
Yeah.
time in the original script versus in the show, he gets up really quickly. I mean, with
Yeah.
Lisbon's help, versus like in the script, they're like he's lying on the ground and really pathetic and helpless. But I think in the show, it really feels like maybe nothing's wrong, maybe he's okay, for
Yeah.
rather than having that impact of, oh, something's very wrong.
Yeah, but he looks around. He tells her that he can't see. So the next scene is at the hospital, and his eyes are bandaged, and the doctor's telling him that it's going to be maybe 48 to 72 hours, and he has a slight concussion. She says, "We'll have to wait and see," which I guess is what kicks off the humor because Jane's like, "Oh, humor, okay." Cho arrives, and I love this part. This is one of my favorite lines. Lisbon tells him that Jane is a bad patient, and he says, "No, I'm not. She's a bad visitor." Cho speculates that maybe he was on a suicide mission, so he thinks maybe the guy was a suicide bomber. But Jane says no. He looked in his eyes, and he definitely didn't want to die. And this starts off like Jane's like other abilities thing because they look at each other, and he's like, "Stop doing that! Don't look at each other like that." So I like this aspect of the episode because they do like both, like where he's totally off. He totally doesn't understand what's going on because he can't see, but also he also makes some really good predictions on what's going on without being able to see. So I thought
Yeah.
the two contrasting things were amusing. Rigsby and Cho go to see the widow, and she gives them the name Terry Andrews. I guess the victim was a stockbroker, so he lost a lot of people a lot of money. So he's got a lot of enemies. But yeah, she gives him one name, and then they look him up. They find he has a record, and he works at a nightclub called Hype. I thought it was so funny that he's a bouncer, but they call him a guest relations manager. So there's one guy at the door. He tells Lisbon she can go in, but he calls Rigsby too butch. Says he has to stay outside.
Is it the hair, you think?
Honestly, looking at them though, I would let Robin Tunney in, but not going.
So Robin or Lisbon shows her badge and tells him, "Get lost, Fluffy." And I wanted to ask, do you think that's a Harry Potter reference? Because he's like at the door guarding the door, and Fluffy is a name of the three-headed dog
Oh,
who
yeah.
guarded the entrance to the Chamber of Secrets, right?
Yeah, I didn't think of that. Didn't make that
Yeah,
connection.
thing. Yeah, I feel like the writer, maybe that was a reference, but I don't think Lisbon's ever read Harry Potter. It's just going off of vibe. Like, I can't picture that.
In the movie.
Yeah, that's true. She could have seen the movie
She's a
100%.
big movie watcher, right? So Terry, like Rigsby, they try to take him in for questioning, and Rigsby grabs his arm, but the guy just like totally just he like flings Rigsby like way off to the side, right? I was just like, whoa.
Yeah,
That's
he's
not
like, not today, guys. I'm not going in today.
like they had identified themselves as law enforcement, right? By that
Yeah,
point?
yeah. Lisbon showed her
Yeah.
badge. Yeah.
I still think the taser was unreasonable force, though. That's, she really went the extra mile there.
I feel like it's because he was giving her attitude. He was just like, "You want some too?"
Yeah, but that's like a lawsuit, though. Like, he
I
could
know,
sue.
yeah. Lisbon has been doing some questionable things. Like the most recent one with Crimson Casanova. She was, what was it, Karen? Oh, she was like, we couldn't find the murder weapon, so he didn't do it. Let him go. And I was just like, sorry, what?
Best cop ever.
Jane shows up at the CBI, escorted by a police officer. He has broken out of the hospital. He's got gauze taped over his eyes. And she's like, "What are you doing here? You're supposed to be resting at the hospital." But he tells her that, "Oh, no, the doctor let me go." She says that, "I need to get back to work." And Lisbon comes out and she's all mad because he's not supposed to be there. And I guess the doctor had called her and told her that he insulted the whole ward and was a complete pain in the ass, which sounds just like Jane.
Yeah.
When she points out that he's blind, he says that his other senses are super heightened and he's like Daredevil. And then he walks right into a pole. And so I was like, wait, were those poles always there? And I was trying to figure out what the poles were, but I guess it's to hold up the metal like stairway, not stairway, but there's like a metal walkway on like a second floor above the bullpen, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's what those poles are. Because when he hits it, you can hear like a clang. So I guess it's metal. So I guess it's part of that metal walkway. So Rigsby is questioning Terry, and then Jane comes in. He asks to hold his hand, which I like the awkward face that Rigsby makes. Like, oh, I don't know why he wants to hold your hand.
But Terry goes with it.
Yeah, until he starts touching his face, then he's like,
Get off me.
which
Fair.
I mean, that seems like a normal reaction because I mean, you shake someone's hand, that's fine, but he was just going slowly up his arm, and then suddenly it's like, I know you're blind, man, but come on. But it was so funny because right after this, he's like, "Oh yeah, you can let him go," which is the thing he's not supposed to do. Lisbon bursts in, and I love that she scares him because he's like, "Oh, that was loud." But she takes him outside and she's scolding him about interrupting interviews. And then it was so weird. Did you notice this part that Lisbon kind of like walked them straight into a pole? Like he had just walked into a pole and then she's like guiding him and then she's like walking to the point where like she has to like stop and be like, "Whoa, where did this pole come from?"
She's also blind.
But he tells her that the guy Terry didn't do it, and she asks, "Oh, did you sense that with your superpowers?" And he says that he can smell the type of anger he has. I love her Stark here. She's like, "Oh, okay, I'll go make you a costume. What do you want to be called?" And so I had asked you guys to come up with a superhero name for Jane. So I had come up with one too, but now I forget what it was. I should have written it down. Oh,
I wish I could say I forgot because mine is terrible.
what did I come up with? Okay, Karin, what was yours?
Okay. I came up with brainwave, but along with this name comes telekinesis. And that's just how that's just the rule.
I like that one. Okay, what about you, Liv?
I did Hypnotic Hero, and it's like kind of like I don't know if you guys have seen Jessica Jones, but it's like a good version of Kilgrave with, being able to influence people to do what he says.
Mine is pretty lame. It's just T-Man. Like Batman. Yeah. I was struggling with this.
Tea, like the drink?
Yeah, T.
Okay. I see it.
Because, there's a whole tea thing in this episode with Rigsby, so...
Yeah.
True.
So, okay, so he starts touching her face, saying he wants to know what her face feels like when she's smiling, and then Rigsby comes walking up, and he has this look on his face like when you walk in on your parents kissing. It's
Like,
just
hey,
like, what's going on?
on here? I
It
love
was
it
cute,
too.
though.
In the script, it says that Lisbon like steps away at this point, and what we actually get, she's just like, "Oh, hi," and doesn't move at all.
I literally have the exact same note.
She looks
Yeah.
really happy.
I feel like it means that this must happen semi-regularly, which makes my shipper heart very happy that they just have these intimate moments and they get interrupted and they're like, too bad. There's nothing to see here.
But oh my god, the way that her face, she just looks very happy. Even though she's like constantly irritated with him, she looks very happy to have him touching her face. She's
Yeah.
actually smiling and she looks actually genuinely delighted somehow.
It's like a different level to their banter that I think that she's enjoying having him just a little bit off his game and just they're just having fun.
I do wonder, this might be too meta, but I was wondering as I was watching it if the hand is intentional because he does it with his left hand with his wedding ring. And that's always something I pick up on when he's touching Lisbon and you can see the wedding ring. And it's just kind of this reminder, this subtle reminder that, there's this thing between them for quite a while to go. So,
And his fingers look really big on her face.
Yes.
But yeah, I really like that part. Jane asks her if she'll take him to see the widow. And that's when he tells her that she smells particularly good today. She gets weirded out and she sneaks off. I love that part. She sneaks off while he reaches out, thinking she's still there. Oh, that was so cute. So next we go back to the widow. She's serving Jane tea and he's talking to her about a warm carrying home she has. He mentions that he thinks they're linked and asks if they've ever met before, and she says no. So he asks if he can see some of the husband's things. And we see a little bit of old Jane here, and there's going to be a lot more of this in the episode. There were a lot more flashbacks than I actually remembered there were going to be in this one. We get to see a bit of old Jane here because he says that he's out of practice with the touchy-feely stuff, which is, I guess, what he was doing when he was telling the wife that she has a very warm, caring home. I guess that's part of his thing. He just compliments people to make them feel good, maybe, and more receptive to him.
Mm-hmm.
I wondered if it was due to the, him kind of leaning into the psychic bit with touching the items. I didn't know if that was the touchy feely, but it makes sense potentially that it's about him saying nice things to her too.
Yeah, yeah. So then Lisbon takes him to the other room and he looks at a box of things. And one of them is an engraved watch. And this is where we get one of the flashbacks, but he can't remember exactly. He just remembers the watch. He remembers the engraving on the back of the watch. Back at the CBI, he's telling them that he must have done a psychic reading because the wife told him that it was a gift from work. And so that's why they feel like it must be tied somehow to his company. But he can't remember the woman's name or her face. And like Grace is kind of aggressive toward him, like from this point and then on from here. Because she sounds like she's very judgmental. Like she's like, "Oh, you hurt the guy so badly that he still holds a grudge because they're talking about the bomber here. They're presuming that
Yeah.
it's a guy and that he's doing it out of revenge. So this is the angle that they're going for now." But like even Rigsby's like, "Hey," but did you? This part was so funny because she gets a text from the guy that she's been her love interest, and Rigsby is just very not so subtly just reading over her shoulder. So Lisbon asks if he keeps track of all of his clients, and he says it's probably one of his boxes. And then he asks for someone to make him a cup of tea, and they all dig out except for Rigsby. I love how he's just like, "What? How come I didn't get the memo about ditching him?"
But it's funny because Rigsby's about to ask him a favor, and I'm like, you think he would volunteer to make the tea so he could get it in with Jane, but I guess that didn't cross his mind.
But here's a sense of smell again, right? Everybody's gone, and he sniffs around. He's like, "Rigsby."
Rigsby. Probably smelled that fast food place that Rigsby goes to.
He's got the taco scent on him. But they go next. We go to the break room, and Rigsby's making him tea with his green cup. Jane tastes it, and he asks if he put the milk first. So I looked this up because I remember people talking about this in the Discord before,
Mm-hmm.
like basically the milk first or after. And so, when I thought about it, I was like, why would you put milk first? Because then you're gonna get milk on your. Because I like to, I've mentioned this before. I like to reuse my tea bag, but if you're dunking it in milk, that's kind of gross because you can't reuse it. You're gonna just throw it away. Oh, speaking of throwing it away, I thought it was so funny that Rigsby throws the tea bag away and it makes that noise. It's such a familiar sound, right? A wet tea bag being thrown into the trash.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he apparently the way he likes his tea made is the water has to be truly boiling and the milk has to go in first, and then you're supposed to pour the tea in. But I looked it up, and yeah, I guess this is a huge debate in the UK.
Oh, yeah.
So I found this article on The Guardian. It said, many arguments have been had about this. If anything is going to kick off another civil war in the UK, it's probably going to be this. So, according to science, milk first is supposed to help heat the milk more evenly, and that prevents a skin from forming on the tea when it cools down. So, I guess that's why some people prefer it that way. But the article also said that that's probably only really applies if you're making tea from a pot. So, if you're pouring tea from a pot into a cup
Right.
with milk in it, yeah.
So you steep your tea in the pot with the boiling water, and then you have a splash of milk in your cup and add your
Yeah.
tea that's already been
Yeah.
steeped. Because
Yeah.
that's when I get like confused. Like you don't want to steep your that would bring down the temperature of the water and get your tea bag all milky. I
Yeah.
feel like we need to have a Brit weigh in on this.
It's funny though because he tastes it and he's like, tastes weird. And so the article was basically saying that people can tell when you do it like the way that they don't like it because of the way the milk tastes. I guess from just temperature, science wise, like it does something different to the milk depending on when you add it. But this is where Rigsby makes the mistake of asking Jane about the guy.
Oh my goodness.
Because he wants to know, what's the scoop on him? And he's like, if it's the guy in payroll, I'm going to kill him. It's like, oh, dude. Jane pounces on this. He's like, women love a man who would kill for them. And he just calls for Van Pelt. And he's like, he just asks her who the guy she was kissing outside was. Is it the guy from payroll? And she gets upset. Tells him it's none of their business. And Jane says, honesty is best. And Rigsby says, honestly, I'd like to kick your butt. And I think he would have deserved it.
And Jane's like, I'll take you, but take me to the couch first, please.
He's so good at playing that, like, utterly pathetic, to win sympathy type, right when he upsets someone, he just makes himself so sympathetic.
I'm helpless. Don't hurt me. So Grace is at Jane's desk going through his boxes of stuff because, like I said earlier, they're trying to find his client list. And she tells him, oh, that was cruel. Why did you do that? And he's like, well, the blind thing is making me mean. And he tells her that her and Rigsby really need to talk. But she finds a CD with his clients on it. And she says it's a white disc with RPB on it. So what do we think RPB stands for? Because they don't say.
No, I found one acronym that makes sense, but it doesn't quite fit. It's a zoning acronym that stands for Residential Professional Business. So, like, he's working out of his home in the flashbacks. So it'd be like he's using his home as a business. So there would be an RBP.
I just thought it was a weird thing to put in, right? And then not explain it. I thought if it's in there, it means something. But yeah, maybe that got cut.
Yeah, because I mean, it doesn't stand for records, something like psychic records. Like the letters in the wrong order.
Yeah. I didn't even think about it, but now I'm like racking my brain for anything I can mean. Maybe he had a weird organizational tactic where he did those last names, but that doesn't make sense because Gentry wouldn't be on there.
Yeah, and I was looking at the screenshot of Van Pelt's computer, and it's just generic. Doesn't say. I mean, there's a few folders for clients and addresses and web pages.
We can add this. We can add this to He Is Mar. Mystery is unsolved. There you go. But Jane seems really interested in the coffee cart guy, and he says he wants to meet him. And Grace tells him that he doesn't actually work in the building, but that he's a lawyer. And he says, oh, he's just being nosy, but Rigsby loves her. And then he theorizes that she has a trauma in her past that she's never spoken to about anyone. She actually looks really affected by his words.
Yeah.
She's like struggling not to cry and stuff.
Yeah, she shuts down for a little second there.
I find it interesting how bad she is at hiding that. Like, her and Rigsby are both so bad at lying. It's always funny when Jane goes up against them. But, yeah, I mean, she doesn't even make an effort to be unaffected by it, so she's clearly overcome.
Well, plus, luckily enough, he can't see her.
Right.
I thought, I was watching this, I was like, holy cow, Jane is projecting, because he tells her that Rigsby is scared of emotional commitment and she's deeply repressed and emotionally shut down. And I was like, oh my God, that's Jane and Lisbeth.
He was calling it so early.
Yes, even though he wasn't aware. But Grace manages to pull up the client list, and she runs that against the company records where the victim worked, and they find a match for Carol Gentry. And so that's when we get another flashback. And this one is with a different client than the one that we had seen earlier. So it's 8 years ago, and it's at Jane's Malibu house. Jane is telling this lady Carol, "Your mother forgives you," and oh my god, this scene made me so uncomfortable because it's just a look back at the scuzzy guy that he was before, and it's like this ugly thing that I don't like looking at, but is still really fascinating. So, what did you guys think of this?
I it's a great way to show, like, he does make mistakes, and it's showing how he covered it, and, it really focuses on, how he's using touch and, tone to, like, control her emotions and calm her down, because he, yeah, totally read the situation wrong, and I find it fascinating, very, very awkward, but
Yeah.
also fascinating.
It's just like you mentioned, like the look on his face, he looks like he knows, oh, I screwed up big time here. Because the lady's like, "What do you mean she forgives me?" Because he totally read that wrong, and like the lady was abusive to her daughter. So yeah, she's like, "What did I ever do that needed forgiveness?" When I guess it's supposed to be the other way around. So, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we've gotten almost zero firsthand information about pre Red John Jane. And I find every glimpse we get into him very interesting, but extremely hard to watch. He definitely gives me
Yeah.
the every time he's on screen. And I find it interesting all those little ways they change. And I guess this is a credit to Simon Baker, his mannerisms,
Mhm.
and his look too. So I guess hair and makeup and costuming in terms of like the ugly tie and just the way they do his hair is like scuzzy. I can't even explain it. I'm just
He just looks
but it's
very
hard.
sleazy, right?
It is, and it's hard to think about. Like we see Jane's quest as avenging his wife and daughter, obviously, and it's hard to see that man and think, oh, he was like a really good father and husband. And of course, we'll never really know, but it's interesting to kind of that they plant that into your head to think about what he was really like before.
But
Mhm.
it's also a really good way to show his redemption arc in a very compacted amount of time because you see like how he messes up with this lady Carol, and then you see like when they flash back to him on the couch, he looks really upset, right? He looks really sad and remorseful, and it's enough where Grace is like, "Oh, are you okay?" Even though she was just irritated with him,
Mhm.
she's he looks sad enough that she's concerned, and then he says he's fine. He stands up, but then he faints.
Did you guys know why he threw out the water? Because I was trying to figure that out.
Yeah,
Like
I didn't get
he
that
does it
either.
very
It was lemony.
dramatically.
It
It
had
was
yeah,
too
it
lemony.
was no, but it's not just his cup. He empties out the other cup too,
Hers.
the lady's cup.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
does both of
I couldn't
them.
tell if it was like a frustrated tick, but it just seems weird because technically she could still be in eyesight at that point. I mean, he does it right after she leaves. It's just kind of a bizarre move, I feel like. Or maybe
Yeah,
it shows how rarely he. Oh, sorry.
no, I feel like it's kind of a cleansing act, like, he needs to put that behind him, so he's throwing out the water and, to reset for his next client kinda thing.
Yeah, and I guess it kind of also gives the impression of where he messed up with this lady. She left in tears, and it's like the way that he finishes the session too is kind of cold and callous. Even though he's being warm, he's like touching her hand and rubbing her wrist and everything. But like, he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, but that's all we have time for today." And it's like, he just cuts her off.
We focus on him for a while too
Yeah.
after like she leaves. There's a pretty concentrated amount of like 20 seconds of just watching his face and the water thing that you can see he's just mad at himself, but he's not really thinking about what he did wrong or that it's wrong what he did.
Yeah. I mean, maybe the water is just like, he's just like, well, whatever. He's just like, she's
Yeah,
gone. She's gone now. So,
maybe to help show his emotional state and his
yeah.
frustration at himself.
Yeah. Instead of his concern for her, right?
Mhm. Oh,
Because
yeah. Oh,
she leaves like with tears on her face and like she gives him the check and he takes it, and yeah, just it's very
yeah.
effective in conveying how callous he was before. So But back in the present, I like that they have this kind of heavy scene and they go to something funny because it really helps keep the mood light. Because Manelli's there and he's like, well, someone tried to kill him, so we should just keep him here where we can keep an eye on him. He's like, he says, I wrote it down because I like this. He says,
Yeah.
if you die in this department, I'm responsible. I do all the paperwork. In fact, if he does die for whatever reason, move him to a public area, would you?
I love how Jane's like, I hope he's smiling when he says
I feel like you get a sense too of like how Lisbon became the kind of person she is. You know, mirroring herself out like after Manelli as like an authority figure because they have very similar like humor, which I think is really funny.
Yeah, it's funny how you guys. I forget which one of you said it, but like his helpless act, because right here, like Benelli's kind of like cut him down, and he just drops his cane. He's like, "Oh, Lisbon, can you help me with my cane?"
just get the cane.
He
Don't
does
help
it
me out.
so
Just
well. He was milking it the entire episode.
But yeah, so next we have them at the conference table, and they're kind of like honing in on this Carol Gentry lady as a suspect, but he keeps insisting that she's not a suspect, and then he tells him it's because she killed herself 8 years ago. And so, because the flashback was 8 years ago, they kind of give
Mhm.
the impression that after her session with him, she was just so upset that she took her life after that. And so that's why Jane looked really sad, right? That's he felt remorse.
It's weird too because in the script it says 5 years, and I just wonder
Yeah.
why
Ah,
they changed it, like what the operative thing there was, because I feel like 5 years would have worked, but I guess maybe that would have put it right before, Red John, and maybe they wanted to move it back a
mm.
little bit, but it was just kind of a weird change to make, I think.
Well, I feel like maybe they did that to put that on Jane, like to make him feel and look like he feels responsible, and to put that as part of his like redemption arc. Like this is how bad he was before, and this is how he
Hmm.
is now. So it's, I feel like it just adds to that contrast. But yeah, I mean, everybody looks at each other awkwardly, like, ooh, because I mean, it's a really uncomfortable thing to think about, right? Especially with him being like someone that they've worked with for so long. But then Van Pelt tells him that they found another connection when they were checking with the spouses. And so they find that they got a hit for a woman, Jill Lamont, and her husband was Paul Krager, who also worked for the firm. And so this is where they give him that name. We get another flashback, more slicked back, icky Jane with the
Better
tie.
tie this time though. The tie was better. I'll give him that.
Yeah, the first one was what, like a polka dot one?
It was so
Yeah.
bad. And
Yeah,
the
it was
second one's the
terrible.
dark one. It looks a lot better.
Yeah, yeah. But basically, this one, he's doing a psychic reading. She's suspicious of her husband, and he does his whole act, and he basically tells her that her husband is being unfaithful. But we know he's a fake psychic, so he's just leading her using words that make her come to her own conclusions, which I guess is
Yeah.
just how he does it, where he's like, well, I never said that. I never said he was cheating on you. I told you to look within, right?
Yeah, well, and he also tells her to talk to her husband and, you
Yeah.
know, and encourage him to not throw away the life they have together. So, he was saying it very carefully, I think.
I think the juxtaposition between Carol Gentry and Jill Lamont is very interesting because I think it shows that there's like a very wide range of what Jane could do to a fan. Like he could help somebody get away from someone who's cheating on them, but he could also, lead someone to commit suicide. I mean, maybe we don't know all the details, but it makes you wonder what the ratio is of that, like whether predominantly he did things where it worked out, but it's just I like that they showed both sides of it.
And I feel like we gotta stretch believability here a little bit because he happened to do work connected to this one company in Sacramento, but he lives in Malibu. right?
I kept thinking maybe he has like a maybe they got like a special, like a psychic special where or maybe they even had, I mean, big consulting or stock company. They probably had offices in LA too. Maybe he got like loaned up. I don't know. I was thinking the same thing, so I was trying to think of all of the ways they like auctioned off his services at something.
Yeah, because I mean, in the first one, they literally show the lady at his Malibu house,
Right.
right? So
Yes. Yeah.
it's a very big company. They have many satellite offices.
Bad time to be a stockbroker in it's 2008, right?
Okay, so that leads Lisbon and Cho to go talk to Paul Krager's former boss at the company Lynch Halstead. And he says that his divorce was a massacre and that his wife remarried and he lost everything. And it just so happens that the bombing victim was the guy who fired him. So that's a connection there. But he says that the last time that anyone heard of Paul, he was spotted at a soup kitchen. And then Rigsby confirms that yeah, the wife took their son, moved to the East Coast, and remarried. And Cho says to Jane, "Boy, you really did a number on him." But it's like, and like Lisbon slaps his arm, like what are you doing? And she says, "You only confirmed what the wife already knew." And so yeah, I feel like that's a fair assessment because it's not like he targeted this guy, right? He did what the wife hired him to do, and then the things that happened after that. I mean, the guy was cheating on his wife.
Yeah. And it's not like Jane planted the idea that the
Mhm.
man was cheating. He just, yeah, helped the wife kind of lean into her own suspicions.
Yeah, and we can talk more about that later when we get to the end when Dan starts talking because I have some opinions over there too.
Me too. My typing sped up on my notes during that section.
So Van Pelt and Rigsby head to the break room, and Grace is like, "Wow, he had a lot of clients," and so yeah, that gives us some idea of Jane's wealth because we know that he doesn't hurt for money. He has an expensive house in Malibu, and but he doesn't care about money now is the thing. So, but that's like another peek into his former life, and then we had gotten like a kind of passing mention of what psychics like Jane and Christina charge, right? It's a crazy
Oh boy.
amount. A lot of people in California seem to have disposable income.
I wouldn't know.
This is when Dan arrives, and so Grace looks really surprised and she doesn't look that pleased. And so this is what I was talking about earlier. So she says he doesn't work in the building. He tells her that he had a
Mhm,
meeting upstairs,
mhm.
but like I said earlier, they focused on that restricted access. So how did he get in the building? He must have snuck in somehow, right?
Well, that's what I wondered. Like, I thought he was dating Van Pelt partly to get into the building, but here he is just showing up like he didn't need her.
He
So,
must have picked her someone's because
Oh,
didn't he pick up her parking pass to get
yeah,
into
yeah,
the parking
yeah,
lot?
yeah.
oh
So
yeah.
I was
Actually,
wondering
yeah.
if he did something similar to
Maybe he
get.
uses her pass to get in or something too.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
never say it, but that's what I was kind of thinking.
But very awkwardly, Rigsby's just standing there and he's like, "Why don't you introduce me?" He's staring at me so strangely.
Poor Rigsby.
I thought it was so funny that she turns around. She's like, "Agent Rigsby."
Be
so
professional, please.
so formal.
I wonder if he's been like spying on them too somewhat to get like intel. So I wonder if he was kind of on notice that there was something going on here.
Maybe, maybe. But yeah, Rigsby's kind of a dick. He's giving off the dickish vibe here. And Grace is just like, what are you doing? Okay, so but Rigsby is making a sandwich and Dan tries to shake his hand, but he just keeps eating his sandwich. He very noticeably doesn't shake his hand. And so I want to discuss this because on the TV police, they were criticizing Jane's sandwich in the pilot episode, right? They're like they called it a TV
Oh, yeah, yeah.
sandwich. What did he call it? Like he said there was just mayo in it or something, right? Or mayo and ham.
Ugh.
Yeah, or you're saying that you can't really see what he puts in it. It's just like, yeah, minimal
But
bread
yeah,
and
Tim called it a TV sandwich,
something.
and so I thought this looked like a TV sandwich too because I was trying to figure out what kind of sandwich it is. But then you can see a jar of peanut butter in a quick flash, but no jelly. So I wonder if it's just a peanut butter sandwich. I just want to note that there's nothing wrong with plain peanut butter sandwiches because I don't really like jelly, so I eat just plain peanut butter sandwiches. But when Rigsby bites it, it kind of just looks like two pieces of bread.
Yeah. Did he get interrupted by his anger
Yeah, he was
at
trying to
at
put it
Dan
together really
showing up?
fast so he could.
Yeah,
He's trying to look cool, angrily eating his sandwich.
Dan
Stop.
showed up and he's just like, "That's it. This is all I got. I gotta eat it aggressively now."
I don't want to shake your hand. I'm going to just eat this bread.
Honestly, they could have leaned into that and made it funny. You know, like they could have had, you know, Dan or Van Pelt comment on it and be like, "Is that just bread? Did you put it like?" I don't know. That could have been entertaining. I've been valiantly ignoring this fly that keeps. I don't know if you can see it.
I've
on my
seen
screen.
it. I've seen it. I was like, what is that? I was like, what is that black thing?
I left my window open. It was a mistake.
We've got two rom-com consultants. So Dan chases after Grace and he wants to go talk to her somewhere more private. And that's when Rigsby approaches. He's like, dude, we do have a problem. We need to go talk. And she's just like, no. But they agree and Rigsby promises no trouble. And they head to the bathroom. And I was really uncomfortable with how close they were to each other.
Yeah.
They were like really face to face.
I'm
Like,
like,
It was weird
yeah,
blocking.
with the urinals in the background. I'm like, is this really? You're in a police station. You can't go to an interrogation room. You have to
I
go to the
know. I know.
bathroom,
And the bathroom is such a bad idea because people go into the bathroom all the time. Like you think he'd put them
right?
in like a hallway or like the staircase maybe, but like the main bathroom is kind of a weird location.
Also, this is like I think this was partially to turn the episode into a horror show because oh my god. he kicks his knee out, he punches him, he totally like knocks him out, and then we see Rigsby lying on the bathroom floor.
Oh no, I
Ew.
know. Ugh.
No. Poor
Ugh.
Rigsby. They're gonna
When
have
did
to
you
boil him
guys
in water later.
when did you guys think it was him before Dan before he attacked Rigsby? Like did you make the connection? Do you remember on your first watch? It happened for me recently, so I actually thought back and like tried to remember. But I was literally like, I think it was in the bathroom right before it happened. I was like, why are they spending so much time on this? This guy's really suspicious. And then he like immediately knocked Rigsby out, and I was like, yes. But they foreshadowed it pretty well, like on rewatch. Like I think if you were paying attention, like you might. I clearly wasn't, but maybe you could have caught it.
I don't think I suspected anything.
I can't remember. It's been a long time at this point. Over a decade for me since I watch. But there is something about this kid though. I mean, like his suit, the way his suit hangs on him, it's like he's either like yeah, there's just something off about him. The way he smiles, something.
Yeah, I mean, we saw him that he was there that morning with the bomb, the focus on the sign. Like there was so many little moments. I don't know, it was interesting. Looking like on rewatch, noticing all of those and being like, I probably should have seen these coming.
He's a Hydra operative.
That's right.
Maybe I actually was suspicious of him because I had seen Captain America Civil War before that.
Oh,
And
maybe.
he gave off that general Russian spy vibe.
After he has subdued Rigsby, Dan heads back to the bullpen. Grace is so embarrassed, but he assures her that all is well and he wants to meet Jane. And so Jane is sleeping on the couch. He startles awake, and I think here, like, he's already starting to drop his act because he's kind of like squinting at him, like he hates him, kind of thing. And I don't know, Van Pelt could have looked at him at this point and been like, whoa, what's
Yeah.
this? And so I think he just doesn't care already, especially since eventually Rigsby will wake up and probably start yelling from the bathroom.
Yeah, I feel like Jane picks it up very quickly
Yeah, yeah.
in this introduction that there is, yeah, definitely something off about this guy.
I think it's
I
when he
wondered if it
shakes
was.
his hand because they do like this really long handshake. And they show him like putting his arm, like his hand going all the way up his arm, touching his sleeve and everything. And after they do that is when Jane starts to grill him a little bit more than maybe as usual for a first meeting.
But Jane's also been asking about him the whole episode, and it made me kind of think: was
It's true.
Jane suspicious
Yeah.
before this moment, just in his naturally suspicious of everyone kind of way? But I definitely think, I mean, they talk about like rough hands, and so I feel like that was like the censure moment where he, you know, you're right, where he touches his hand, but Jane is so on guard immediately that it made me wonder: is it? I think also like the fact that they're all alone, you know, like
Yeah.
there's no one
Mhm.
else at the CBI, maybe.
Yeah,
But
because he confirms it, right? He's like asking Grace very pointedly, where's Lisbon? Where's Cho? Where's everybody else? Where's Rigsby? And she's like, oh, I think he went out to get pizza.
he's like handing it to her and she is not picking it up. Like,
And he mentions that he's wearing an Italian suit, and I guess he knew that by touching his sleeve, like I mentioned. He asks about his parents, and he says they're dead. And so I think by this point, yeah, Jane knows because he says he's hungry. He wants to go get something to eat. And I think he's just trying to maybe go off and call Lisbon or something. That's what he wants to get away, basically. But Grace says she'll go get it. And that's when Dan moves in and he just reveals himself right here. He whispers that if he does anything, he'll kill Grace. And I mean, Jane must feel pretty helpless here because he can't see. So, and as we'll see from outside, he's a terrible driver when he can't see.
just on the dead parents thing, because I think it's kind of interesting before you move forward. His dad is not dead,
Yeah,
right?
his
Because
dad
they're
is not
talking to
dead.
his dad. So I wonder what caused him to lie there. Like, I don't know if he feels like his dad is dead because he's
Like
not
dead to me kind of thing.
dead to me because he didn't support his, you know, high class soccer prep school agenda or whatever that was.
But I mean, okay, so Lisbon calls and they're with the guy, the dad, and she's like telling Grace that oh he's obsessed with Jane and Medina, and they show like the wall at this place that has like pictures of both of them. So I guess he's been stalking them. But were they trying to say that the father and son are both obsessed? Like, is are those pictures actually Dan's or are they actually Paul's? Or is it both of them? Because he tells him that his son is living in the city, that he's back, right?
Yeah. I get a little lost in that part, the connection with the dad.
Something must have got cut.
My like only explanation was I was thinking that the dad is obsessed and has these pictures, maybe has been stalking, and but would not do anything, you know, because he's, I guess, broken in a sense after all that he's been through, you know, and that's his way of dealing with his obsession with Jane and what happened to him, and versus the son is actually Dan is actually doing something about it, but I'm not sure if that's right.
So speaking of like hypotheticals, I can see that they set this up and then maybe later they had a scene where they talked to the guy Dan. He talks about how he came back to the city, he found his dad, he saw all his pictures and obsession on the wall, and that's what got him into like this quest to get revenge because he sees how because he talks later about how his dad is on the streets and he lost everything. So I feel like that's part of the history that maybe his dad was obsessing and the guy Dan picked up the mantle, so to speak.
Yeah, I think something would have had to trigger it because it seems late to be seeking revenge. So maybe Dan didn't know about it until he visited his father and saw the pictures and then was like, "Oh, it's this guy's fault."
Yeah. But Lisbon tells Grace, "Oh, it's this guy Dan Hollenbeck." And we had just heard her introduce him by name to to
Yeah.
Jane. So
I'm surprised he didn't, like, pick another name or something, to really get into it. He just was like, "Nope, I'm gonna give you my real name." Or they say he's going by Dan Hollenbeck. So, I don't know if that means that his dad just knew that would confirm that he had been in contact with his dad if his dad knew the alias he was going by or something like that.
Yeah, maybe maybe there's a longer scene with Lisbon and Cho and the dad being like horrified by what his son was doing. Maybe he hates Jane, but to kill somebody is going too far or something like that. In your hypothetical situation, Crystal.
yeah. So Grace turns around and Dan's holding a gun at her on her, and I feel like this was just set up for the suspense. Like Lisbon just like, well, that was weird, and she hangs up.
So they both play it so badly. Like I feel like either
Yeah.
one of them could have done something. But maybe Lisbon caught on because she got back to the
Yeah, yeah, and she
like,
seems to
pretty quick.
know like that she needed to get back because I mean, like maybe she left Cho with the guy Paul Krager, and then she rushed back. I don't know, but Jane starts talking about how he used Grace to get access to the parking lot, which I guess is how he planted the van in the beginning. And he used her security pass. So, like we were saying earlier, maybe that's how he got into the building too. And I feel like in like a more serious police kind of thing, this would actually get her in a lot of trouble, right? Losing your security pass long enough where somebody can do all this.
Yeah. She's also parked in the lot, so did she get a replacement pass, or did she never mention that did she mention it was missing, or
He put it back.
Oh, right.
So,
But Jane urges her to just do what he says, and that gets him upset. He's like, "Oh, you're a nice guy now," and he starts railing into about how he destroyed his life, talking about how he was playing soccer with like movie stars' kids, and then one day he finds himself in, what was it, Dog Patch, New
New Jersey.
New
Jersey.
Jersey.
I have got to defend New Jersey. I've lived in New Jersey before. New Jersey has like the best schools in the country, technically, like
Like
statistically.
prep
So I
schools,
do find
right?
it interesting. Yeah, they're all prep. I mean, Princeton's there. Like, it's very like it's a better school for. I mean, it's a better state for education than California. So I always find it interesting that he hates on New Jersey. I'm like, you could have gone to a prep school, and there's probably more prep schools in New Jersey
but
than there are in
but are
California.
there movie star kids there?
Right.
Okay, hear me out.
Was there soccer there?
This is the important thing.
The soccer is like, isn't MetLife where like the U.S. women's soccer plays or whatever? Just saying, like, I feel like they could have been like, podunk, like Iowa, and I would have been like, okay,
Hey, now.
like,
They dunked on Iowa later.
Yeah.
yeah.
Karin has been waiting for this.
Yeah.
She's got a bone to pick.
Gullible women.
So he has Grace handcuff herself behind her back, and he makes Jane drop his cane and just use her as a cane. And he says that they're gonna go to somewhere private, so they need her car. And so she's like, "Yeah, it's out in the lot, and it's got Iowa plates." And I was just like, "Why did she feel the need to give that information?"
I know.
It just like, where's your car? Oh, it's in the parking lot. It's got Iowa plates. I would never tell someone what kind of plates I have. Just I felt like it was just really unsubtle, like set up for what for the line that comes next.
Worth it. It's worth it.
Because he's like, "Oh, Iowa, famous for your potatoes, right?" She's like, "No, that's Idaho, you idiot." And poor Grace. She's gone from like being like so giddy about this new crush of or this new love interest of hers, and now she's calling him an idiot at gunpoint. Ugh. This show is so unfair to Grace's love life.
It really
Grace
is.
picks the worst men.
Or they pick her.
Or they. Ooh.
He asks what Iowa's famous for, and Jane says gullible women. So I'll let Karen
All
sound
right.
off here.
So my family moved to Iowa when I was 4 years old. I did all my growing up there. And so whenever this line comes up, I always yell at the TV, it's corn and pigs. Corn and pigs. That's what Iowa's known for, not gullible women. But also, Iowa is used to being the butt of the joke, for sure. I get it. But it's also like when, you pick on your sibling and it's all good, but someone else picks on your sibling and you have
Like,
to
hey.
yeah. Yeah,
I mean,
that's my reaction here. Like Iowa is my baby. It's my sibling. And I I totally get it. Like it's a great joke. It's a great line. But I have to yell at the TV every time.
also, way to kick her when she's down, though.
I
Right?
He
know.
literally has
Right?
been messed up, and then Jane's just like, you know what? Screw you, Van Pelt.
Right?
You're gullible, and I'm like,
like
I think she knows. I think she's got it.
like he just talked about like being blind has made him mean. I was like, yeah, jeez. How can you say that? Ah. Okay, so speaking of yelling at TVs, the guy Dan's like, yeah, so my dad cheated on my mom, but is that a big deal? Nobody's perfect. And I was just like, oh my God, this freaking guy, he's just going on this whole revenge quest. He's blown somebody up. He has done like all this mayhem because he's just directing his anger at the wrong person. Why don't you like maybe get mad at your dad for messing up his own life? Ah, the frustration
It's
here
just
is just
it's so interesting too that they pick such an unsympathetic character from Jane's past, because they have probably so many we talked a little bit about this earlier, but Jane had a lot of clients. There's a lot of different things, but they picked the one where the guy really has not a good motive to come after Jane, and I feel like that's kind of an interesting choice when they could have picked someone who has a really good motive to come after Jane, maybe go off of the Carol Gentry one and find a sibling or something that comes after him where you're like, okay, I can understand. But no, this guy, it's completely it's like, well, if it isn't the consequences of my own actions.
right. God, it's so
Well,
frustrating.
this is 8 years ago. So how old do you think Dan would have been? Like
I mean, it sounds like he was in high
16?
school, right?
Yeah, high school age. Like that was just
Yeah.
a huge upset to his life. Like when he gets on his rant, I feel like he's using his dad, his what happened to his dad is the excuse for this behavior, but it's really all about himself and how it
Mhm.
wrecked his own life. And he's just mad.
So he leads him outside, and we see Tommy again. Like I mentioned, if the guy has a speaking part, he might come back later. But yeah, this is where Jane elbows Dan, and he tells Grace to run, and she's still handcuffed, so she can't drive. So Jane is gonna have to drive. They hide in the parking lot, and Tommy and Dan fire at each other. And do they mention whether Tommy is okay? I don't think they do.
No, because
Yeah.
I was waiting for that, but he was still breathing at the moment. But I really hope he was okay, because it just didn't
I
seem like the
know.
best
Right?
plan on Jane's part.
Yeah, they don't show him bleeding out or any, puddles of blood or
Yeah.
anything. It's
Maybe
just
he just got shot in the arm. Let's just say he got shot in the
acting.
arm. He's okay.
Yeah, he's all right.
Yeah, and I feel like the Mentalist would not miss that gut wrenching moment.
Yeah.
This show, it would 100% be like, oh, and you killed Tommy. So I feel like he's
Yeah,
okay.
like one more thing for your conscience.
Yeah.
But Jane needs to get her car keys, and he goes to get it, but he touches her boob by accident. I thought it was so funny because he's reaching for her keys. It's nowhere near her pants pocket. Like, oops. But okay, so this part really pulled me out, and I got really I was like, what? Okay, so they showed Dan going through the parking lot, holding the gun in his hand, and someone pulls out in their car and they drive away, and it's CBI Ron. And he
Yeah,
literally looks at the gun in his hand and then just drives
yeah.
off. I was
He's
like,
like,
wait,
oh, weird.
I mean, Dan's kind of hiding it behind his back, but like
But
barely. Like
also,
he looks so
he just
suspicious.
shot Tommy. Surely
Yes.
Ron heard that in the
No.
parking lot and
No.
said he just like, I'm going home.
Honestly, valid. He was like, this is probably some of like the major crimes shenanigans that I want to be part of it.
I'm out of here. Lisbon can handle
Who let
it.
him out of the parking lot though? Like,
He probably
yes.
saw Lisbon running in and he was like,
Like,
oh, she's got it, I'm gonna leave.
Okay, and so Jane has to drive with Grace guiding him, and this is like one of those survivor challenges where they blindfold a person and you gotta talk someone through it. And these two are so bad at it. He hits practically every car in the parking lot. And I just want to note too that it's weird that nobody's at CBI, but there's everybody's car in the parking lot.
Oh, I'm crying. I didn't even notice that.
I mean, he's hitting car after car, like bumper cars. And I'm just like, I thought there was nobody at the office.
They're all at some like major like pizza party happening down the road or something.
See, that's why Grace thought he went for pizza.
we're filling in the missing scenes. It's all coming together.
Oh. But yeah, so he oh god, the way that he's just like revving the engine, just like and just ramming cars, like, oh my god, do you want to get out of here or not?
I also feel like Van Pelt and Jane are the worst, like Jane CBI agent duo for some reason. Like I feel like obviously Jane and Lisbon have a thing going on, but like when Jane works with Cho or works with Rigsby, it feels very natural, and then when it's with Grace, it's like so chaotic. And I feel like this is a good example.
But the guy Dan has been shooting at them. He's like shut out all her windows and everything, and he comes right up to him. He's about to shoot, but maximize for dramatic effect. He doesn't shoot them. He just stares at them for a little while. I'm about to shoot
the moment.
But that's when Lisbon shoots him, and she's just like, I thought I said nothing exciting. Which was a great line. I like that. So inside the CBI, an EMT is finishing up tending to Rigsby, and Grace runs in and she hugs him and she tells him she was so sorry, and they almost kiss, but then a janitor walks in. Oh, the timing of this guy.
I remember the first time I watched it, I thought it was Cho. Like, I don't know why, but like, I was like convinced it was Cho, and then
that would have been good. They should have done that.
Like, who walked in on them?
Yeah.
Nice. I don't want to know. That would have been what he said or something.
Yeah.
He would have just looked and turned around.
So the next morning, Jane is at the office early. He's taking off his bandages again, and Lisbon arrives and she sees him and she walks up to him and he can see again. And she's the first person that he sees, but he makes a joke that she's Rigsby. That was really cute. And it's like, she's like, Rigsby? And it's like, he lets it hang, but she's just spoken. So obviously he knows it's not Rigsby. So, it was still cute though.
I definitely feel like it's a more serious moment for a minute when he opens his eyes and then he's like, I've gotta lighten it up. And then he does, and they kind of go back to that cute, flirtatious, but light kind of interaction they have in season 1.
This was a really cute Jisbin episode. Very small scenes, but cute. So that wraps up the episode breakdown. So we'll do our cold reading. So we talked about this a little bit already. At what point Jane cracked the case. Liv, you had mentioned you thought maybe he was suspicious from the beginning. And I feel like, the handshake is where it all came together for him. I don't know if it was like he mentions his firm grip. And I guess maybe it was hard enough where it's a little too much for somebody who's just meeting somebody. It's more like, ooh, he's like conveying anger or something. Maybe that's what he took out of it. So
I think it was the was it the feeling of his hands too? Like he was saying,
Yeah, yeah.
a
He
lawyer
said
would
he has
have.
workman's hands, right?
Yeah, yeah. I feel like it was. I feel like Jane is always suspicious of people that are around. I don't know if he was making the connection, but I feel like his pointed asks to meet the boyfriend were a little pointed. I don't know if that was just for the show's purposes or if that was Jane genuinely being like, weird that this guy showed up right when someone's trying to kill me.
Well, I feel like what he says when he explains it earlier is true too. When he says, "Oh, I just want to make sure that she's dating, she's seeing a good guy." So he's also looking out for her. I think there's a bit of truth in that. So
Yeah, I get dad vibes.
He's also a huge Rigsby Van Pelt shipper, so he's angling
Clearly,
hard for that. Like he's doing his best.
right?
he's their
Like,
end game already.
well, Van Pelt's dating this guy and clearly is excited about it, and Jane's like, "You really need to talk to Rigsby. He loves you." Like,
Yeah.
I just love how blatant he is about it too. Like he doesn't try to be like wishy-washy. I mean, he expressly is like, Rigsby is in love with you. Maybe you
yep,
should look into that, which is a lot. I think if my coworker came up to me and said, by the way,
And I mean, like by this point, Lisbon has said it too, right? She said it in Painted Red. She's like, Rigsby's in
yep.
love with you. So like the two mom and dad both already know that you guys are making eyes at each other. But okay, so hot reading. Dad mentions that he had to move to Dogpatch, New Jersey, which I felt like he was just making up some kind of name to be derogatory toward New Jersey. But I actually Googled it because I was like, oh, maybe it is a real place. But it's actually a neighborhood in San Francisco. It's a real place, but it's in California, not New Jersey. Also, I got a lot of dog shelter results. I guess that's
I
a,
can
I guess
imagine. Maybe he moved to, you said it was in San Francisco. Maybe he like moved to San Francisco and thought it was New Jersey because it
Right.
just wasn't LA or something. This is basically New Jersey.
Oh, okay. I noted some deleted scenes from the script. There was a scene at Medina's office that kind of introduced the whole storyline about Terry Andrews a little bit more. They were just kind of going through his office and stuff like his desk and talking about who might have it out for him, just setting up the whole climate of being a stockbroker at that time. They're like, everybody was mad at all of us at this time. There was a really fun scene with Jane flirting with his doctor to try to convince her to let him out early. So he was going all in on it. He's like, "You have a lovely, graceful curve to your hip, doctor, if you don't mind me saying so." and and she's trying to be professional, right? She's like, "Thank you. No, don't make me strap you to the bed." And Jane saying, "Doctor, don't be long. Maybe we can go for a walk later."
signs his discharge paperwork right there.
Right? So, so at the end of their exchange, she's like, "And leave my staff alone. Do you understand?" And it says, "Jane sniffs the air."
It's his superpower, really, in this episode.
And I found this interesting when Rigsby is talking to Jane and trying to get information about her Van Pelt's boyfriend. He says about Van Pelt, "We'd be slipping around. That's if she wanted to," which he doesn't, as far as I can see. So, like, saying that he'd
What
be
does that
open.
mean?
I think he's saying, like, he's talking about how they're coworkers when they can't date, but that he would date her.
Okay. I don't think I've heard that term before, slipping
Slipping
around.
around. Yeah, me either.
Yeah, that's interesting. I also, maybe it's too, like, maybe it was too much at this point for him to
Mm.
imply that.
Okay, rewatch checklist. This is funny because I added a new one and Karen added a new one, so we have
Yep.
a ton of rewatch checklists now. So we have Jasmine moments. I wrote down Jane filling up Lisbon's face, and then there's also the scene at the end. Locations, the blue glass building. I think that's what I call it, right, Karen? We haven't
I
seen it
don't
since
remember.
the one with Sophie Miller, but or maybe it was the casino one. I don't know. We haven't seen it in a while, but yeah, this was used for the Lynch Halstead scene with the boss when they're walking out the door, and that's actually the same area where, like, in the future, like the ambulance scene in Devil's Cherry.
Yeah, yeah.
Punch list, no update to punch list. Okay, suit watch. I had said in the past that there's usually 4 suits, but we had flashback suits this time, so there were 6 suits
Oh,
to mention.
I was
There
gonna
was,
say, how often did he change his suit if he's blind and just hanging out at the CVI the whole time? He
yeah,
managed it, huh?
Also, who's changing his suit?
Right?
Isn't that
mm,
out there?
How is he choosing his suits?
Officer Powell helped him get dressed.
Well, that's a lot less fun than where I
Yeah,
was going.
probably. But yeah, so first there's a matching charcoal pinstripe suit with a light blue shirt with thick white stripes. There's a matching dark gray suit with a sky blue shirt. The first flashback suit, it's either black or charcoal with a silver polka dot tie and a white shirt. And the second flashback suit is a navy blue suit with a white shirt and a navy blue tie. And so I've noticed that he wears a lot of light blue shirts like this season, but his flashback suits seem to mostly be white shirts. And then there's a black suit with a white shirt with thick light blue stripes. And then last of all, in the ending scene, he's wearing a light gray suit with a dark gray vest and a white shirt with tiny blue stripes. And then cheat watch, we're gonna add Bloodshot to this one because it all circles around this Paul Krieger and Joe Lamont cheating thing. Revenge watch, do we add Bloodshot to this one because it's got a
I was
revenge aspect to it, but it's not
yeah, I
really.
was thinking about that too. It's not a well, it's a different sort of revenge, right?
Yeah, yeah,
But he is killing people as part of his revenge, so it's like
yeah,
halfway there.
yeah. It's a weird. I guess we can leave it in, but also just leave a note that it's not quite the same kind of revenge we're trying to keep track of. There's no additions to the Red John timeline, so I added Lisbon watch because he
Nice.
calls for her like that when he finds the guy in the van. I don't know. Has he said that before in any of the episodes before this?
I wanna say so,
Yeah,
but I'd
I
have
don't.
to look
Yeah,
it
I
up.
don't think we've been keeping track of that one. And then Karen added something.
I added the upside down badge. We just see a really quick flash of it when they're talking to the bouncers at the club. Lisbon flashes her badge and it's upside down.
So she does this frequently. I've never noticed that.
Yeah. Yes. I haven't looked very specifically for it before, so I wanted to note it.
Okay, favorite lines. I mentioned earlier I like that I'm not a bad patient, she's a bad visitor, but I also like Cho's line. Um who said it before? Somebody said something stalking her. Oh, I know it's Rigsby. He said that
Rigsby.
the guy is stalking her like a chicken, and Cho says, "How do you stalk a chicken?" I was just like, "What?" But it was so funny anyway.
Yeah. And Rigsby says, "You know what I'm talking about." But I mean, not even Google knows what he's talking about. That is not a thing you say. My favorite lines, I really like Lisbon saying, "Get lost, Fluffy," and I like Jane's. He was filled with anger, but not fearful, guilty, murderous anger. That has a tang of ammonia about it. His is more of a clean, righteous anger, lemony.
Okay, Liv, what about you?
I think Manelli's move him to a public area, I think takes it for me, although I couldn't stop thinking about the when he picks up the watch and he's like, this feels expensive. It's like the one time, like normally what Jane feels or senses, I'm like, I don't know how he gets that, but I have held a Rolex one time and that thing is so heavy.
Oh,
So I was
really?
like, yeah, like
Ah.
expensive watches are like really heavy. And so it's like the one time where I've been like, oh yeah, I can see how Jane would make that connection. So that was kind of a cool moment for me. But mostly Manelli just takes the win for this episode for me.
For the Cho Zinger of the Week, I just loved Cho's whole attitude in the opening scene, including he's like, when Van Pelt's like, good morning, and Cho's like, what's good about it? He is just not having it. So I really enjoyed how Rigsby gets back to him when Cho's like, what is up with Van Pelt today? And Rigsby says, you mean why isn't she cynical and jaded like you?
Okay, we're gonna take a quick break and then we're gonna have Karin and Liv face off in our new Memory Palace quiz. Woohoo!
Woohoo!
All right, we're back and we have a new Memory Palace quiz for you this week. The way this works is I'm going to ask Karin and Liv 5 questions of increasing difficulty plus a bonus question about the episode we just discussed. And the way that this works with 2 people is you're going to buzz in. So, like, on a radio call-in show, if you want to buzz in, you say your name, and if you say it first, you get to answer. But you have to wait until I say the whole question before you can buzz in. And if you get it wrong, then the other person can answer. You guys ready?
Let's do it.
As ready as I'm gonna be.
Okay, this first one is easy. What department is the knucklehead Rigsby mentioned is stalking Grace from?
Oh, Liv. Is it payroll?
Yeah.
I'm just bad at saying my own name. You'll get them all.
Okay, question 2. What does Lisbon do to Jane after the doctor leaves to punish him for mouthing off at her?
Karin.
Liv.
She
Karin.
She pinches.
She pinches him.
Yeah. I'm going to give it to Karin because Karin said her name first. Okay, we're tied. Question 3. According to Jane, what does Filthy Guilty Murder's anger smell like?
Liv. Ammonia.
Okay. Karin, you just mentioned this.
I'm terrible at
What's
saying
your
my own
favorite
name.
line?
Question 4. What kind of food does Jane ask Grace to get him? At the end. Getting hard now.
Liv, and I'm gonna say pizza, but I feel like that's wrong.
No, it's not pizza.
Dang.
Gotta
I remember
guess,
pizza
Karin?
was mentioned.
Oh, I'm totally blanking. I don't have it.
No. He says chips would be good.
Oh.
Okay. Question 5. What kind of car does Grace drive?
Karin, it's a Jeep
There you go.
in the side parking lot with Iowa plates.
Can't forget the Iowa plates. It's the most important part.
Okay, so did she have Iowa plates? It was white with like blue, some kind of blue
I
thing.
tried to look. It did not look
It
like.
flashed really fast, yeah.
But I'm like, how long has she been living in California that she still has Iowa plates? That just seems wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know. When I moved, I didn't change my plates for like 2 years. So to be fair.
Okay, bonus question. This one is going to be really hard. I think we're going to have to come up with another question because you guys are tied. You guys are going to hear this question and be like, what? What form does Rigsby say he has to fill out after the janitor interrupts them from kissing?
Karin, H746B.
Oh, How did you get that? Seriously.
You
I was
deserve
like-
that win completely.
I need to memorize this number because there is a small chance that it's going to be on the quiz.
Hey, that's inside information.
Karin did her homework. Okay. That means the score ends up at 3-2 for Karin. Yay! Which is very redeeming because I believe Blee Petaludo smoked her.
Oh,
I feel better
Okay.
now.
Any last thoughts about the episode?
it's just so good.
It's a great one. I do want to throw out if I don't know if there's a portion you guys do this at, but I always think about this episode when there's like a really good fic where everything hinges on the last scene of this episode, and I'm totally gonna plug it if that's okay. It's not my fic, it's somebody else's, but it's called.
Actually, why don't you mention what your username is and how people can find your fan fiction?
Ooh, that's true. So I'm Queen Persephone on Tumblr with 3 E's, all spelled out lowercase. And then on AO3, my user is called Light Loves the Dark, and it's all separate words with underscores. If you're interested in my fics, mine are mostly later. And although I do have one fic, it was interesting when you said this episode, I was thinking, have I said anything about this episode at any point? And I have. Actually, I wrote a alternate universe, like just kind of what's called like a crack fic. I don't know if you guys are familiar, which is just not really, doesn't really make sense. Where I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna write something really happy. I'm gonna make Red John never killed anybody, and I'm gonna make Angela, Jane, and Lisbon soulmates. And so I wrote this really unhinged fic about that, where Lisbon saves the day with Red John, and then Jane has to kind of chase after her and, bring her in, and she's nervous. But in that fic, I talk about Bloodshot, and that's kind of the episode where they come together a lot earlier on, obviously. But it was really fun to write because it made me look at the episode differently in terms of the moments that were there. Like if you just deepen them, I think a little bit, it really has a lot of really good Jizbin moments in it. So, but the fic I was talking about is there's this fic called Someone Else's Life. It's by WLDWMN. And it's a fic where Jane, somewhere later in the series, loses his memory, and he wakes up and he hits his head, he wakes up and he thinks he and Lisbon are married. And when they trace back to, his original kind of divergent experience from what actually happens in real life, it's the last scene again of this episode where instead of calling her Rigsby and lightening the moment, he just says that there's no notion, you have no notion how good it is to see your face, and leaves it with Lisbon, and that helps them develop a relationship sooner. But it's an excellent fic. I highly recommend.
Agreed. I have it open too.
Oh, you have it too?
Yeah,
Nice.
I have it here. I'm like, this needs to get mentioned if we're talking about fic.
It's so
in
good.
This episode.
Yeah, I'll make sure to link it on the episode page so that people can click to it easily, and then I'll link to your profile as well so people can check out your fics. So,
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. It was really fun having you to talk about the episode. We hope you had fun.
No, it was so much fun. Thank you guys so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Okay, if you're enjoying Rom-Com Detectives, please consider taking a minute to leave us a rating or review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. If you're on Spotify, Reddit, or YouTube, leave us a comment answering our question of the week by telling us what superhero name you'd give to Jane. If you'd like to join additional conversations about The Mentalist, you can visit the Mentalist subreddit at reddit.com/r/The Mentalist, and you can join the Mentalist Bullpen Discord server linked in the sidebar. To contact me and Karin, email us at host@romcomdetectives.com. Follow us on Instagram, Blue Sky, or Threads at Rom-Com Detectives. For our next episode, we'll be breaking down Carnelian Ink. So if you would like to ask us a question or tell us your own thoughts about that one, you can leave us a voicemail or text message at 1-650-733-XOXO or 9696. This episode of Rom-Com Detectives was recorded on October 14, 2025. Rom-Com Detectives Mentalist Unit is co-hosted by Crystal Watanabe and Karin Lubbers and is produced by Pico's House. Thanks for listening, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.